I used to think love could be reborn, that after years of routine, silence, and predictable mornings, a spark from somewhere else could make me feel alive again. I was wrong. My name is Shabana, and for 12 years, I was married to a man who loved me more than he loved himself. Shahrukh wasn't perfect. He was quiet, serious, and sometimes too practical for romance. But he was good, the kind of good that never fades, even when ignored. Somewhere along the way, I stopped seeing him. The small gestures, the way he made my coffee just the way I liked it, or left the porch light on when I worked late, felt ordinary. I mistook peace for boredom, stability for emptiness. And when Adrian walked into my life, with his easy charm and knowing smile, I mistook attention for affection. He made me feel visible again, beautiful, wanted, the things I thought Shahrukh no longer saw in me. It started with messages that felt harmless. Good morning. Thinking of you. You deserve more. Those words, dripping with validation, wrapped around my lonely heart like a lifeline. I told myself it wasn't wrong. Not yet. That I could control it. That I deserved to feel something. But the truth is, the moment I started hiding my phone, avoiding Shahruk's eyes, and lying about where I'd been, I had already crossed a line. If I close my eyes now, I can still remember the night it all began. The smell of rain, the sound of my heart beating louder than the thunder, and the quiet, trembling whisper that said, "This is your chance to start over." I wish I had known then that it wasn't beginning. It was the end. The beginning of losing everything that truly mattered. At first, it was harmless, or that's what I kept telling myself. Adrian was just a friend from work, someone who understood the parts of me I thought Shahrukh had long forgotten. He noticed the little things, a new perfume, a different hairstyle, the way I smiled when I was nervous. It was intoxicating, being seen again after so many years of feeling invisible. Our conversation started as small talk during lunch breaks, then stretched into late-night messages. He'd text me things like, "You deserve more than a life that feels empty," or "You're too beautiful to be unhappy." I knew it was wrong, but those words filled a void I didn't even realize had grown so deep. Soon, I found myself looking forward to work just to see him. I'd check my phone constantly, waiting for his name to light up the screen. Each message was a spark, and I was burning before I even noticed the fire. Shahrukh, as always, was patient and trusting. When I started coming home late, he never accused me. He simply smiled and asked if I had eaten. His kindness only made my guilt sharper, but I pushed it aside. I told myself that I was finally choosing happiness, that I had given enough, sacrificed enough, and now I deserved to feel alive again. The first time Adrian touched my hand, the world tilted. It wasn't love, not really, but it felt like something powerful, dangerous, and irresistible. One evening, after a long day at work, he offered to walk me to my car. The rain was falling softly, and as I turned to say goodbye, he kissed me. It was slow, deliberate, and full of everything I thought I was missing. That night, I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car, trembling, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My lipstick was smudged, my heart was racing, and for the first time in years, I felt alive and utterly terrified. From that moment on, the line between right and wrong blurred completely. Coffee breaks turned into secret dinners, and dinners into hotel rooms hidden behind false names. I began lying easily, rehearsing excuses, and avoiding Shahruk's eyes at the dinner table. The thrill of secrecy consumed me, until I no longer recognized the woman I had become. When I finally left Shahrukh, I told myself it was liberation. I packed my things quickly, ignoring his quiet pleas and the tears in my children's eyes. Adrian waited outside in his sleek car, his hand resting confidently on the steering wheel, as if the world already belonged to us. I remember looking back only once. Shahrukh stood at the door, still wearing the same expression he had the night I told him the truth. Disbelief, heartbreak, and something worse, acceptance. The first few weeks with Adrian felt like a dream I had been chasing for years. We traveled, stayed up late drinking wine, and laughed over things that once would have bored me. I didn't have to cook, clean, or play the role of a responsible wife anymore. For the first time in my life, I was living for myself. But freedom, I learned, as a cruel way of showing you what you've truly lost. Adrian was charming, yes, but also restless. He thrived on attention, on being desired. When he looked at me, I could tell he liked the idea of me, the woman who had risked everything for him. But when the excitement faded, he began to change. He'd scroll through his phone at dinner, disappear for hours, and brush off my questions with a half smile and a dismissive, "Don't start acting like a wife now." Nights became longer. The laughter turned forced. The warmth I once felt began to cool. I tried to ignore it, convincing myself it was just the adjustment period, that love couldn't always be perfect. But deep down I knew the passion that burned so fiercely in the beginning was already flickering out. I missed my children more than I could admit. Their voices over the phone were polite but distant, filled with hesitation. My daughter once asked, "Mom, are you coming home soon?" I lied and said yes, even though I knew I couldn't. Shahrukh no longer answered my calls. Some nights, I'd lie awake beside Adrian, staring at the ceiling, wondering if Shahrukh was still awake too, or if he had finally learned how to sleep without me. The life I'd built around desire and rebellion was crumbling faster than I could hold it together. And for the first time, I started to wonder, maybe I hadn't found freedom. Maybe I just traded love for loneliness wrapped in a prettier disguise. It didn't happen all at once. The unraveling came quietly, like a slow leak in the dark. One day, I woke up beside Adrian and realized I no longer recognized the man I had left everything for. He wasn't looking at me the way he used to. The warmth, the hunger, the charm, all of it had vanished, replaced by coldness wrapped in routine. He stayed out late more often, his phone always face down on the table. When I asked where he'd been, he'd smile that effortless smile and say, "Don't be paranoid, Shabana. You know I love you." But his words no longer sounded like truth. They sounded like echoes of my own lies from months ago. The irony stung. One evening, I found a lipstick stain on his shirt, a color I'd never worn. My hands trembled as I held it up, waiting for an explanation I already knew. Adrian barely looked up. "You're overreacting," he said, before walking into the shower. His indifference hit harder than betrayal itself. For the first time, I understood what Shahrukh must have felt. That silent, suffocating pain of watching the person you love become a stranger right before your eyes. I had turned my husband's heart into rubble, and now I was standing in the ruins of my own making. The nights grew unbearable. Adrian started ignoring my calls, sometimes not coming home at all. I'd lie in bed staring at the door, waiting for footsteps that never came. The apartment that once felt like freedom now felt like a prison built from guilt and regret. One night, I decided to confront him. I waited until he came home past midnight, smelling of perfume and cheap liquor. My voice shook as I asked, "Who is she?" He laughed, actually laughed, and said, "Does it matter? You left your family for me. Shabana, did you really think I wouldn't do the same someday?" His words cut deeper than any blade could. Every ounce of justification I'd built inside me shattered in that moment. I realized I wasn't his beginning. I was his temporary escape, just like he had been mine. When he walked out that night, he didn't look back. I sat on the floor, surrounded by silence and the faint smell of his cologne fading into nothing. My phone buzzed once, an email notification from Shahrukh's lawyer, finalizing the divorce. I cried until there was nothing left to cry. Days turned into weeks. I went to work, went home, and went through the motions like a ghost wearing my skin. Every time I passed a playground or saw a mother holding her child hand, guilt twisted inside me like a knife. I wanted to call my children, to beg them to forgive me. But what could I say? That I had chosen the wrong man? That I had destroyed our home for a lie? By the time I found the courage to pick up the phone, my number had been blocked. That was the moment I realized I hadn't just lost my husband. I had lost everything that ever made my life worth living. Months passed, but time didn't heal. It only reminded me of everything I had destroyed. The apartment that once felt like a fresh start now reeked of loneliness. The laughter that had once filled the air was gone, replaced by the hum of the refrigerator and the sound of my own thoughts echoing in an empty space. I started waking up before dawn, sitting by the window with a cup of cold coffee, scrolling through old photos of my children. Their smiles felt like ghosts haunting me, memories frozen in a time I could never return to. In every picture, Shahrukh stood beside them, steady and strong, holding together what I had torn apart. I reached out to him once. I don't know what I expected. Maybe pity, maybe forgiveness. His reply was short, almost emotionless. "Shabana, please stop. The kids are doing better. Let's not confuse them again." That single message broke me more than any scream could have. I tried to focus on work, but people whispered. Some had seen the affair unfold. Some had known all along. Their polite smiles turned to pity, and every conversation felt like a reminder of who I'd become, the woman who traded a family for a fling. Then, one day, I saw a picture online. Shahrukh was at a park with the kids. They were laughing, genuinely laughing, and beside them was a woman I didn't recognize, holding my daughter's hand. She looked kind, happy, natural, like she belonged there. My throat tightened as I stared at the photo, realizing how easily I'd been replaced. The world had moved on without me. For the first time, I understood that consequences don't always come as punishment. Sometimes they come as silence. Nobody yelled at me. Nobody cursed my name. They just stopped needing me. I started seeing a therapist. It wasn't to fix things. I knew some wounds couldn't be repaired, but to understand why I'd thrown away everything that mattered. The truth was bitter. I hadn't cheated because I stopped loving Shahrukh. I'd cheated because I stopped loving myself. Every night, I'd lie in bed and imagine going back, not to change what I did, but just to hold my children again, to tell Shahrukh that I saw him, truly saw him. But life doesn't give do-overs. It only gives lessons written in pain. The nights grew longer, the silence heavier. I realized I had built my life around a man who wanted a thrill, not a future. And when that thrill faded, I was left standing in the ashes of my own choices. Sometimes, I wonder what Shahrukh tells the kids about me. Maybe he says I'm far away. Maybe he says I'm busy. Maybe he says nothing at all. But deep down, I know that the story of my life will always have a line written in regret. The line where I walked out the door and never came back. One chilly evening, almost a year after I left, I found myself driving through my old neighborhood. I told myself it was just curiosity, but deep down, I knew it was something darker, punishment. The streets were the same, yet everything felt foreign, like I was trespassing a life that no longer belonged to me. When I stopped in front of my old house, my hands trembled on the steering wheel. The porch light was on, just like Shahrukh used to keep it every night until I came home. Through the living room window, I saw silhouettes, laughter, warmth, the flicker of the TV. My children sat on the couch, curled up beside Shahrukh. There was someone else there, too, the same woman from a photo. She was smiling, her hand resting gently on Shahrukh's shoulder. They looked happy, peaceful. Oh, I sat there for a long time, hidden in the shadows, watching the life that should have been mine. The tears came quietly at first, then harder, shaking my whole body. I had convinced myself that Shahrukh and the kids needed me, that I could still somehow return and make things right. But the truth was staring at me through that window. They had already healed from me. When Shahrukh stood up to close the curtains, for one fleeting second, his eyes met mine through the glass. There was no anger in them, only a distant kind of sadness. He didn't wave. He didn't frown. He simply turned off the light. That moment broke something in me that had somehow survived everything else. I drove to the park nearby, the same one where we used to take the kids every Sunday. The swings creaked softly in the night wind, and I sat on one, holding my face in my hands. Every laugh, every bedtime story, every kiss goodnight played in my head like a cruel movie I could never stop watching. I realized then that regret doesn't scream. It whispers. It follows you everywhere, in quiet rooms, in familiar smells, in songs you can't listen to anymore. It's not a wound that heals. It's a shadow that never leaves. I had traded loyalty for lust, love for illusion, and family for fantasy. And now, I had nothing left, not even the right to say I was sorry. For the first time in a long time, I whispered Shahrukh's name into the empty night. not hoping he'd hear me, but because I finally understood what his love had truly meant, and how I had destroyed it with my own hands. It has been almost 2 years since I walked out that door, and I'm no longer the same woman who left. The fire that once drove me has turned to ashes, cold, silent, and weightless. I've stopped asking for forgiveness from others, because I finally understand something painful yet freeing. Forgiveness doesn't erase what you've done. It only helps you live with it. Shahrukh has moved on. I heard from a mutual friend that he's engaged now to the woman I saw that night through the window. I didn't cry when I heard the news. Instead, I smiled faintly, because for the first time, I knew he'd found the peace I had stolen from him.